In the War of 1812, England thought it had a second chance. They thought they were going to get a second crack at us. And there were a lot of people in the English military who really, really wanted to have a second crack at the United States. And they knew everything about us because they had fought during the Revolution. They knew the lay of our land. They knew the people. They knew the territory. They knew the facilities, the resources. And they thought they had a way that they could whoop us. And it was a good plan. Their idea was, is you land troops at the Chesapeake Bay and you capture Baltimore and you divide the colonies in half. Because they were still colonies in England's eyes. You cut them in half. And then they could have their way with us. And it was an outstanding plan. It was our big weakness. But the only thing that stood in their way was a place called Fort McHenry. Fort McHenry overlooked Chesapeake Bay. And a young colonel that was in charge of Fort McHenry, he also understood when the war started that he was very, very vulnerable. Because you see, the guns that he had to protect Chesapeake Bay only covered the shipping channel. They could not reach all the way across the bay. They could stop any warships that tried to sail in, but they couldn't cover all the water. It was 1.5 miles. That was the range of his guns. He knew that the British Navy had guns that covered 2 miles. And he knew that all they had to do was park their fleet at the 2-mile mark in Chesapeake Bay, and they could pound Fort McHenry into the ground. And there wasn't a thing he could do about it, except wait. But he had an idea. He went into town in Baltimore, and he hired a woman to sew him 2 flags. A storm flag, which is a very small one for high winds, and a bigger flag that was 32 by 40 feet in size. 32 by 40 feet. It's a huge flag. They had to rent a brewery to sew it together. He picked that size because that was the smallest, or it was the smallest he could afford that could still be seen by the naked eye from 2 miles. He wanted that British fleet to be able to see that flag from 2 miles out. And his idea was they could pound him all they wanted to. But as long as his men were willing to put up a fight, they were going to raise that flag every morning. Let the British know they weren't done yet. So when the British fleet rolled into Chesapeake Bay and they began shelling, they shelled for 25 hours non-stop. Constant bombardment on the Fort McHenry. And these were not just little booms. These were naval shells that left craters you could park a truck in. 25 hours they shelled Fort McHenry. And his men dug in and they waited it out. And at the end of that 25 hours, that first morning, they raised that giant flag. And the British admiral in charge of the fleet looked through his telescope and he saw that the flag was still there. And he turned his fleet and he looked. He said if he knew that the resolve of those men, that he would have to kill every one of them and wipe that fort out, he was not willing to send his fleet in there. As long as they had one gun, they'd fight. A flag saved a country. Now you can go to the Smithsonian and you can see what's left of that flag. You can go to Fort McHenry and you can go into their museum and you can see the receipt for what he paid for it. But you can't own it, you can't touch it. A symbol of liberty that we all share, but you can't have it. Because we all share it, it's just a flag. We can't piece it out to every American. But just as big a symbol of liberty is the rifle that freed a world. That's a Vernon. Everyone should have the opportunity to own a Vernon. Because there is no bigger symbol of liberty that every American can have in their home than this. It's free. Ask me for a certificate and I will sign it for you. With that, and a few other small pieces of paper that you can get, you can go to their website, you can fill it out, mail it in. About 6 to 8 weeks later, your rifle will arrive at your door. That is a pretty good deal. And they only made a couple million of them.
Do they look as good as that? This one looks very, very
My
nice.
experience has been that you can absolutely trust the guys to get you one mail order. I don't know anyone who's been disappointed with a mail order rifle yet. They have all been great rifles. Mine was handpicked. My instructors bought it for me. I think you went and got yours, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't a junk rifle in the rack, though, was there?
Yeah.
All these rifles are gone through by trained armorers. They will make sure that they're a good rifle before they put it on that rack. It will not be junk. It's not going to be a safe queen. It's going to be a good shootable rifle.
Is there an age limit?
I do not know how that works. In Indiana, there is no age limit to own a rifle. I don't know if Ohio's laws take precedence over that or what.
There was a girl that shot Appleseed. She was in her teens,
Kate?
12, 13, 14.
Kate's 14 and she got one, but I don't know if her mom bought it in her name or she bought it in Kate's. Do you know?